Hello, everyone, and welcome to Group B's presentation. My name is Janelle.
Hi, I'm Devin.
My name is Emily.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Keenan.
Today, we are going to compare the supervision process of two Saskatchewan school divisions. So what exactly is supervision? According to the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation, supervision is a collaborative process by which principals observe and gather information in order to support, guide, and provide professional growth opportunities for teachers. Evaluation refers to formal processes that involve a point-in-time judgment and written appraisal by an employer of a teacher's professional competence and effectiveness. Prior to looking at the school division's policies and procedures, we feel that it is important to take a look at the supervision behaviors. Directive control behaviors, where the supervisor makes all the decisions, directive informational behaviors, the supervisor suggested plan, collaborative behaviors, where the teacher and supervisor work together to solve a problem, and non-directive behaviors, where the teacher has a self-plan. Understanding and applying different types of supervision to various scenarios allows for a shift from static systems to dynamic schools. Dynamic schools possess the capacity for continuous change to meet the evolving needs of students, community, and society. According to Edwards and Chapman, there are 6 pillars of dynamic schools: communication and relationships, leadership and empowerment, planning and evaluation, collaboration, accountability and responsibility, consistency and redundancy. A dynamic school is characterized by change, activity, and progress. The first school division we are going to look at is Regina Public Schools. It is one of 4 urban school divisions in our province. It employs approximately 2,300 employees and educates approximately 23,000 students. The Supervision and Evaluation, a handbook for teachers, outlines the division's procedures with supporting teacher growth while providing a framework for processes connected to teacher supervision and evaluation. This handbook was originally created in 2013 and, according to the website, was updated in 2016. The handbook explains the process for each of the possible evaluations. This includes the overview of the process, the timeline that is to be followed, and the delivery of the completed document. Regina Public Schools has administrative procedures around supervision and evaluation. They are 460, performance evaluation of support staff, 462, performance evaluation of teaching staff, 463, evaluation of principals and vice principals, and 480, professional growth and development for teachers. Of note, on the website, the heading for all of these is under evaluation. Evaluation is scheduled to take place in year 1 or 2 of a regular contract if the teacher requests an evaluation or it is requested by the principal. Principals will receive a list of teachers requiring supervision and evaluations from school services. Listed here are the types of supervision and evaluation that are available to all staff from the RPS website. Regina Public Schools staff website states that a program of supervision and evaluation creates conditions that foster and enhance opportunities for such standards of professional practice to be applied, reviewed, and promoted by all members of the teaching staff. Supervision and evaluation of teachers shall be carried out for the primary purpose of developing, implementing, and maintaining a superior program of education consistent with the curricular requirements of the Ministry of Education, the duties prescribed by the Education Act, and the administrative procedures of Regina Public Schools. There are a variety of documents that are used based on your teaching journey. The documents are all very similar in that they collect data following a set of observations. However, the length of the document differs. Within the Teacher Performance and Development Review, TPDR, it states that the purpose is to provide formative feedback to support and guide teachers in their practice, and data and evidence to inform decision-making about professional learning and teacher evaluation. The image you see here is taken from a page of the TPDR. As you can see, it is a rubric that the supervisor fills out following a set of observations. The 4 domains that data is collected on are co-managing, curriculum goals and learning outcomes, instructional skills, and instructional repertoire. Within this document, there is also a spot for the teacher and supervisor to list strength areas, growth areas, focus areas for year 2. When I use this document, we fill it out as, or I have the teacher fill it out as a self-assessment. That comes back to me. I can take a look at it. Then we sit down together, go through a couple goal areas to focus on during observations. There are 3 formal observations, a couple pop-ins. Then the document is completed. When the document is completed, the teacher needs to sign it, not necessarily to say that they agree with it, but they have seen it. For personal and professional goals within Regina Public Schools, there doesn't seem to be a set practice. Different schools have varied expectations. Some schools use PD Place to track and record teacher goals, and other schools use their school strategic plan and have teachers make goals around that. In my experience as a supervisor, we have meetings with teachers in the fall, one-on-one meetings with teachers in the fall to set the goals, and then in spring again to review the progress with those goals. So in a nutshell, that is the supervision and evaluation process for Regina Public Schools.
Thanks, Chanel. I'm going to present Southeast Cornerstone supervision practices. Southeast Cornerstone, as the name implies, is the southeast part of Saskatchewan. It involves 41 different schools and around 8,000 students. I've been a teacher in the division for 16 years, and although I'm quite familiar with the supervision process from a teacher and administrator standpoint, I found it very interesting to compare the material learned in this course to the policies we have. Southeast Cornerstone outlines its supervision key beliefs very clearly in the supervision documents found in Administrative Procedure 421. Some of the beliefs are that teachers, their development is a career-long endeavor and they have the responsibility to grow professionally. The process of supervision, professional growth, and formal evaluation help ensure best supports are in place for student achievement. And the process helps make informed decisions on employment, but more importantly, it acts as a form of feedback for teacher growth. Supervision should be based on triangulation of evidence. That includes observing the teacher, conversing with the teacher, and looking at teacher products such as year plans, unit plans, and assessments. One of my favorite beliefs is the desire for the process of supervision to be collaborative among teachers, administrators, and others they may work closely with. I'm not going to get into it too much, but this helps set the groundwork for collegiality. Supervision should be formative, but also acknowledges that summative evaluation has a role to play in continuous improvement. Training and support should be ongoing and specific, and not all teachers fit the same mold, and they may require different supports based on student needs, their career stage, past experiences, etc. This ties into the importance of the fluid nature of the supervision behaviors that Janelle mentioned earlier. Supervision process based on this picture really involves 3 parts. The teacher, first of all, is responsible for completing a self-reflection rubric at the end of each school year to help guide their professional growth for the upcoming year. The professional growth plan involves 1 to 3 target areas that drive their focus. As learning occurs, they are to document in a digital portfolio that is shared with the administrator. This may include pictures and videos from the classroom, personal reflections, or key pieces from professional development sessions. We use a program called Microsoft OneNote that all teachers have access to, and it's shared with administrators. The school-based administrator is responsible to carry out formative assessments and provide supports as driven by the teacher professional growth plan. They are also responsible for the 5-year formative assessment that sees teachers on a five-year cycle of growth. And the last part of that triangle is the school superintendent takes the responsibility of summative evaluation, mainly for beginning teachers, and they're the lead evaluators when teachers are in distress and need extra support. So teachers at all stages are accountable for the 4 domains, and inside those domains, there's 18 teacher outcomes. This picture shows a small sample of the self-reflection rubric that all teachers would complete annually, and how it's broken down into domains, outcomes, and then smaller indicators. First and second year teachers do not fill out the self-reflection rubric or complete a professional growth plan. Instead, they're involved in a formal evaluation with the superintendent that sees them demonstrate all 18 outcomes over the course of 2 years. The administrator plays a small role, not small, a fairly major role in coaching and supporting through this process when they're working directly with the teacher and the superintendent. Teachers who successfully complete 2 years then fall into a 5-year formative supervision process. That's just on the next slide. In years 1 to 4, teachers self-reflect. They develop growth plans and walk with the journey with support from administrators. The teachers are also welcome to collaborate with others through this growth phase. In year 5, teachers participate in a more detailed formative supervision. During this time, they are not responsible for the professional growth plan, but instead are required to work closely with school-based administrators to work through the 18 outcomes and make a collaborative plan for what areas could be used for their cycle as they continue in their professional growth. Although not the focus of our presentation, Southeast Cornerstone also believes that administrators should continually grow and develop. They follow a similar procedure to teachers. However, they have different domains and outcomes that they are responsible for and work through on a 4-year cycle. The final slide, just a small picture representing the domains and outcomes that all administrators are accountable for. It's small, you can't see it too well, but you can see the domains on the left side, and they are different than the teacher ones. And the indicators and outcomes are listed there, so you can kind of get an idea of what the administrators are held accountable for as well. So that is Southeast Cornerstone. I'm going to pass it on to Emily.
Okay, so when I was looking at this, the self-reflection rubrics for both of these school divisions, I noticed the quantitative and qualitative observations and the way that they were happening. So for the quantitative observations, they are ways of measuring classroom events, behaviors, and objects. Definitions and categories must be precise, and eventually the observations can be used for statistical operations. For the quantitative methods of evaluation, you can use phrases such as, tell me what you have learned. So teachers can use questionnaires, revision questions, quizzes, and so on. Southeast Cornerstone uses a variety of I can statements during the observation process and the self-reflection process. So they have statements that include, I gather a variety of formal and informal information about students regarding cognitive development skills, language proficiency, intensive needs, and the use of knowledge for lessons and unit planning to meet curricular outcomes. I use resources that are appropriate to my students' levels and interests. I align all learning opportunities with the Saskatchewan Ministry of Education curricula. I develop consistent routines. I keep up-to-date, accurate records of student achievement. In Regina Public Schools, they use the more formal wording in their evaluation. So for example, in section 2, the curriculum goal and learning outcome refers to how teachers design the lesson to meet the curricular outcome requirements. Teachers create appropriate assessment tools and develop purposeful, strategic, engaging learning opportunities for students of varying needs. Teachers communicate learning outcomes and assessments to students. In section 4, they go on to discuss the instructional repertoire, refers to an assortment of teaching tools, techniques, and strategies used to meet the needs of diverse learners. Teachers provide opportunities for students to reflect, plan, monitor, and evaluate their learning. And teachers provide opportunities for students to write in all curricular areas. So these were some of the measurable events that I found that could take place in a classroom and be directly observed. So then we went on to qualitative methods of evaluation. So this is where teachers can use phrases such as, show me how you can apply, synthesize, evaluate, design what you've learned. Some examples could be essay, focus groups, scenarios, projects, personal experiences, direct observation, simulation, or role play. The observer goes into the classroom with a general focus, or no focus at all, and records the events as they occur. The events are not made to fit in a specific category, nor are they measured. Instead, qualitative observations record the complexity of classroom life. However, I found when reviewing these documents, neither of the school boards participate in necessarily authentic qualitative observations, but there are some aspects woven into their observations. So in Southeast Cornerstone, they use a variety of qualitative methods with their I can statements. So they said, I plan lessons and units to reflect big ideas, goals, and questions for deeper understanding of curricular outcomes. I design a variety of assessment tools and opportunities to ensure the triangulation of evidence. I create a culture of acceptance and belonging in the classroom. I provide students opportunities for assessing and reflecting on their learning. I pose questions of higher cognitive challenges formulated by both students and teachers. In Regina, they also use some of these qualitative methods. So in section 1, when they discuss co-managing, this is how Teachers organize tasks, procedures, routines, structures, and relationships in the learning environment, while acknowledging that students' consent and co-participation is critical. A safe, structured learning environment is essential. Teachers express sensitivity to diversity and develops knowledge and skills necessary to meet the needs of all students. Teachers engage all students in dialogue, problem solving, and critical thinking. Teachers recognize and affirm students' efforts. In reading through the textbook and observation forms and comparing them to what we have read, it was interesting to see that the way that administrators collect data for both of these school divisions. They're simply boxes to check off with a small section for notes. However, in Chapter 12 of the text, we know that there are copious ways to perform observations to give a more quality results in observations. To make quantitative observations more accurate, the schools could have used categorical frequencies to count the number of behaviors, space utilization to picture movement, or visual diagramming to picture verbal interactions, instead of only using performance indicators to provide evidence or lack thereof. To make the qualitative observations more accurate and in-depth, the school divisions could use focus questionnaires to focus on particular events, or participant open-ended observations to have an inside-out view of their teaching. A good evaluation requires numbers and stories. There's no meaning of one without the other. How those stories and numbers are collected can and will vary greatly, as will the goals for each school division. The methods and measures used for teacher observation should be designed to track how teachers are teaching and how students are learning in its simplest form. We know that using a variety of observations can bring about a snapshot of what's happening in a classroom. Those methods and measures can be qualitative or quantitative and will vary depending on the administrator's interests, the measurement point, the observation resources, but should no matter what be useful in telling the story of what was observed and helping teachers to grow.
When comparing Regina Public and Southeast Cornerstone, a theme that stands out is the use of formative and summative evaluation in these two school divisions. For Regina Public, their main focus is to ensure that teachers meet professional standards. They do this through their evaluation process, which is planned and documented, and it is independent of and distinctly different from professional development. It is only summative. Regina Public aims to celebrate the successes of their teachers, but also use this information to assist the division's decisions regarding teacher retention. Finally, they use their principals and vice principals in dual roles. The admin is in place for leadership purposes and offers support. However, they have an authoritative role when it comes to supervision. In Southeast Cornerstone, their goal is to use supervision, professional growth plans, and formal evaluations to ensure a high standard of teaching professionals and support student achievement. The division uses both formative and summative evaluation. The division aims to ensure professional growth of teachers through collaboration amongst teachers and administrators, and everyone has a separate role in the evaluation of teachers. The teachers are in charge of their self-reflection rubric, their PGP, and their portfolio. School-based admin delve into formative assessment and actualization of supports. And finally, school superintendents are in charge of summative evaluation and pedagogical element evaluation. Our group agrees with the three stances made about the summative formative issue within the textbook. So we agree that both summative and formative evaluations are necessary. They should be separate, and the primary emphasis should be on formative. The major differences in these two types of evaluations is that, as Glickman and Company state, summative evaluation is concerned with a summary of performance over a specific time period, and formative evaluation is ongoing and concerned with continuous improvement. We agree that the Southeast Cornerstone Public School Division will have a greater positive influence on teacher practice compared to the Regina Public School Division. This is because the Southeast separates their evaluation into summative and formative while maintaining that the focus will be on formative and teacher growth. Regina Public keeps professional development out of their evaluation equation. They use their school-based admin to put on an authoritative cap when supervising instead of using them as leadership supports. The SECPSD ensures that their teachers and administrators work collaboratively to ensure professional growth. Everyone has a role to play in this. Summative evaluation is left for the school superintendents, while school-based admin are used to focus on formative assessments, and individual teachers have their own self-reflection. On page 291 of Supervision and Instructional Leadership, Glickman and Company state that formative evaluation better informs and improves the professional development that is necessary for improved teaching. Thus, it makes sense to place the emphasis on formative evaluation while maintaining summative evaluation as a necessary but separate component of the overall evaluation system. In conclusion, for an evaluation policy to have the greatest influence on practice, school divisions need to venture away from top-down authoritative evaluations and put the emphasis on formative growth procedures while including summative evaluations as a separate entity. Only then will we see ongoing, career-long professional development that is individually based.
As Janelle said, dynamic schools possess the ability for continuous change to meet the needs of their students. With quickly changing demographics, technology, and political landscapes, it's essential that schools are dynamic. There are several components of dynamic schools. However, 3 components will be specifically highlighted for analysis and discussion. In terms of teacher growth and development, the 2 divisions drastically differ in their beliefs. Regina Public's philosophy is that professional growth and development are not involved in supervision and evaluation. This is counter to the approach of Southeast Cornerstone, where they repeatedly write that supervision, evaluation, and professional growth all work with one another to support the students and the school. As Keenan said, Southeast Cornerstone uses both formative and summative assessment to foster professional growth and development, while Regina is more focused on summative for teacher evaluation. While the 2 divisions both have documents for professional growth, Southeast Cornerstone embeds teacher growth and teacher development throughout their entire supervision process. Cultural responsiveness is also key to dynamic schools. Schools that are culturally responsive are not only culturally sensitive, but work to make experiencing different cultures beneficial for all students. Dynamic schools desire high-quality learning for all students and believe that all students can be successful. Staff in dynamic schools learn about the backgrounds of all students through relationship building, and they work to promote positive relationships among students across different cultures. Both divisions use language that demonstrates their belief that all students can succeed. Regina Public uses language of all students, while Southeast Cornerstone says each student. Regina Public repeatedly uses the term sensitivity regarding culture. This is important as one part of being a culturally responsive school is using culturally sensitive assessments. This means that students should be given multiple opportunities and alternate methods to demonstrate their learning. Assessments should be used to foster student growth instead of labeling students or placing them into alternate programs. While use of the term sensitivity is a starting point, Regina Public needs to work to move their staff through the 6 stages of sensitivity so they equally value different alternatives to the dominant culture and they can adapt to and integrate the different frames of perspective of all cultures. Southeast Cornerstone calls for their teachers to use cultural backgrounds to meet curricular outcomes. This means that throughout the curriculum, teachers will work to demonstrate the different perspectives of cultural groups on social issues and have their students be involved in service learning and social action projects. Shared leadership, collegiality, and collaboration in dynamic schools occurs when supervisors understand that the knowledge and skills necessary for school improvement are distributed through the entire school community. When an entire staff work together, better decisions are made and the decisions are increasingly implemented. This only happens if the supervisor puts resources and supports in place to facilitate teacher leadership and collaboration. Regina Public cites the importance of collaboration and assesses its teachers on their ability to work collaboratively to improve instruction. They also call on their administrators to inspire to lead. While it is important to inspire leadership, the facilitation of that leadership is also important. Southeast Cornerstone, like Regina Public, assesses their teachers on their ability to work collaboratively, but also calls for them to assume leadership opportunities. However, in the administrator assessment, they move beyond simple inspiration to having the resources and supports in place for teacher leadership through professional learning communities that are led by administration. They again demonstrate their commitment to professional growth, saying staff development empowers shared leadership. Both divisions have components of dynamic schools throughout their supervision policies. However, when highlighting these 3 specific components, one can conclude that Southeast Cornerstone has more deeply embedded them into their supervision process.
That brings us to the conclusion of our presentation. We agree that in order for schools to be successful, they need to align with the pillars of the dynamic school, as Janelle mentioned earlier, and they need to follow the collegial model. And this applies directly to supervision. Collegial schools are not hierarchical, and supervision is the responsibility of the teachers. In addition, the focus is on teacher growth, teacher collaboration, and ongoing teacher reflection. Through our analysis, we found that Regina Public School Division focuses heavily on summative evaluation with little information in their policies that includes a focus toward collegial supervision. This does not mean that schools within the division do not work in a collegial model, but it doesn't appear to be a focus of their division within their policies. Southeast Cornerstone Public School Division, on the other hand, has more elements in its supervision of teachers' policies that align with collaboration and social interactions. There is also a distinct focus on teachers taking ownership over their development through a continual growth cycle that incorporates reflection, goal setting, and action planning. Although Southeast Cornerstone is further along the path possibly to a dynamic collegial model, the evidence of hierarchy still exists and further work appears necessary to engage its teachers as leaders. Just going to wrap up with this quote. It says, when supervisors work with teachers in a manner consistent with the way teachers are expected to work with students, then and only then does school reach its goals. How can we achieve what we want to see in our students if the type of learning and growth desired is not modeled for our teachers? To ensure both teachers and students grow and achieve at a high level, schools have to think differently, adapt a collegial model, and empower individuals to take responsibility for their development. Both Regina Public and Southeast Cornerstone have important pieces in place. However, both school divisions have work to do to get to that next level in the supervision and growth of its teachers. So unless anyone else wants to jump in and give any concluding remarks, I'll give you the second here if you want. If not, the presentation is at a close. So thank you for watching. Our links are below and our references for all the documents discussed. So you can check those out if you need to. And we appreciate your time and watching. Hopefully you learned something as we did in the process as well. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.